Welcome to Whitetail Rendezvous Podcast. This is Bruce Hutchin, host and executive producer. Each week you will hear tips, techniques, strategies, and personal stories from some of the best and funniest whitetail hunters in North America. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you do, tell a friend on social media. If not, tell me and I'll make it better. Thanks for listening, folks. This is Whitetail Rendezvous, episode number 411. On today's episode, we're going to visit with Colby Smith. Now, Colby is with Alps Outdoorz. They make outdoor equipment, blinds, sleeping bags, gun cases, packs, whatever you're going to need for your hunt, whether you're hunting whitetails in the Midwest or the South, or heading out to the Rockies to chase elk. Colby's got some really good tips, techniques, what you should do when you're picking out gear. Sit back, relax, and enjoy Colby Smith from Alps Outdoorz. This is Bruce Hutchin, and I'm headed out to ALPS Brands. Alps Outdoorz is a big promoter of outside gear, hunting gear, and we're going to talk to Colby Smith. Now, Colby is the coordinator for pro staffs, and he's also the product manager at Alps Brands. Colby, welcome to the show.
How we doing?
Hey, we're doing excellent.
Thank you.
And I'm glad Tyler Median got us together. And I like Tyler, Timber Valley Outdoors, great guy, and he's on your pro staff.
Yeah, he does some great work for us. We're happy to have him on board.
Well, that's great. Well, let's just jump right in. It is Whitetail Rendezvous, so let's talk about Colby Smith and whitetail hunting, if you don't mind.
Yeah, not a problem. I guess I really started hunting whitetails with my dad. He tells a story about taking me out when I was 3 years old, sleeping the whole way out there, carrying him, or him carrying me rather, out there, and just having a good time when I was little. And growing up, I learned a lot from him. So he's definitely one of the biggest influencers of my hunting career. So he's kind of taught me just a little bit of everything.
Well, let's go back to the early days with Colby and his dad. And what are the lessons learned that carry forward today and you're sharing with others?
Patience. That is definitely going to be one. Patience, and there's really no off season. We always go out. We constantly scout. That's another key feature that we do on our properties, just to make sure that we're set up every year in the right spot.
In patience, I've been in a lot of situations. Unfortunately, it's getting close to closing the deal, and something will happen, and I'll move, or I'll just shift my feet. I can remember being in the grain fields up in Saskatchewan, and they're almost committed, and we're hunting snow geese, and they got the tornado going, and I move, and they just pick up that little bit. I mean, I'm not waving my arms or anything, and patience has hammered me so many times. And how do you control that?
You just kind of got to keep your eye on what you want. If you're out there, most likely you're going to be out there for a reason. For me, it's definitely to bring food for my family. So that's always in the back of my mind, to make sure that, I'm not just out there wasting time. I always want to go out there to make sure that I do have a successful hunt. Now, successful hunt doesn't always mean being lucky enough to harvest something. If you're out there and you might not get anything, but you learn maybe what'll help you out the next time. I mean, that I think is a successful hunt. But to answer your question, I constantly think of my wife and my daughter and their well-being. So, we like to eat wild game. We like to eat as organic as we can. So a full freezer is always a happy thing.
So do you hunt does for management? Or are you hunting does for food? Help me understand when you decide to to keep the herd balanced and take a doe.
So we do run several Browning trail cams on our farm, and here over the past few years, I haven't been able to hunt as much as I would have liked. So we do have a unbalanced herd when there's way more does than we do have bucks. So the last year, and will be again this year, my father, myself, and my brother-in-law who all hunt on the property have kind of gotten together, talked about we need to do this and we need to do, a controlled hunt. So we'll all take a doe the first week if we can, if we're lucky enough to have a mature doe walk in on us, then we'll do that. And then, the next week, because in Missouri, you've got 2 weeks of rifle season. Now, that's one of them. I mean, we bow hunt and everything like that, don't get me wrong. Bow season for me is I wait more for a buck, or even a turkey. And then rifle season, I like to take a doe. So that kind of helps keep the herd in check, if you will.
Now you're hunting Missouri. How big's the farm down there that you hunt?
So our farm is right at 500, just a little over 500 acres. We've got 300 acres in the Missouri River bottoms, and then the other 200, 225 are in the hills. So it's actually two different worlds going from the bottoms to the hills, even though they're right next to each other. There's definitely different patterning that you have to do in order to make your hunt a success.
Let's talk about early season hunting a mature buck. And you got food sources and, late summer, first part of the season, bucks are patternable. When they change over food sources, pressure in the woods, things change. But that first week or so is pretty magic for getting a patterned buck. So what's your tricks?
So I look for, heavy traveled paths, and then where a good spot's going to be with food and water. Late season or early season, end of summer it's still really hot in Missouri, and water is kind of a key feature for me where I hunt. So I definitely look if there's a puddle in a slough or a creek. I make sure that I can find a crossing and find a suitable tree or a nice flat spot to put up a blind, and I'll hunker down there. But I do try and, like I said, keep my cameras going as long as I can, so I can make sure that I've got them patterned pretty well.
So how do you hunt those early season bucks?
So early season bucks, I do hunt out of tree stand just for the fact that it is so hot, and sitting in a blind all day makes it pretty rough. But you and it's all patience. I mean, you might not see anything, but the way I look at it is if I'm not sitting in the stand, there's probably something walking underneath my stand. So I try and stick it out all day, and I know, and sometimes I don't do it, and I might have something else to do, but that's just the way I think.
Well, thanks to that, we all have different patterns, and I can remember the times that I'm driving someplace. I live out in Colorado, and it's a long drive to the Midwest. I said, oh, man, I need to be in my stand right now. That cold front's barreling through. I need to hunt the back end of that, and I ain't going to get there. I'm still 500 miles away, and I know I'm not going to get there for that morning sit or that evening sit, and it chaps me. It really does. And
yeah, I hear you.
It's a good problem to have, I guess, because I'm passionate about what I'm doing. How do you keep up that passion? You're working for a great company in the outdoor arena, and yet, work is work. I mean, you got to show up. You can't, like I said, when a cold front, one's coming through, you can't hunt the front end or the back end because you got a deadline. How do you handle that?
It's rough, but that's part of life as well. I mean, sometimes you can't get out there when you want. You've got more important things to do. I mean, you have obligations that you've already been committed on. Now, as much as I would love to take off work when that front's coming in, all the time, not all the times I can, and I'm lucky enough that sometimes I do get to go on hunts in some pretty awesome places for work. So that kind of keeps me intrigued as well. But there's nothing better than hunting back home.
Yeah, thanks for thinking and saying that. Now, you mentioned ground blinds. How much ground blind hunting do you do?
I've started to do a fair share of ground blinds. Um, I've been working for Alps for going on 3 years now. And before I started working for Alps, I never hunted a ground blind. Now we do make ground blinds. So once I started working, I got a couple, and I figured I'd try them out, and come to find out that they're a little harder to hunt, just being that you are eye level with anything that's walking by. So it was another challenge. So another thing to learn and see what the correct way is to hunt out of that.
Well, a few years back, I hunted Saskatchewan. That's the only way you could survive. I loved the hay bale blinds. They were warmer than a wooden blind with a heater in it. But it's a whole new ball game, and because your sight is really restricted. You got north, south, east, west, and then you get you got right behind you, and it's tough. I think it's tough hunting out of the ground blind, but I've known a lot of guys that they're extremely successful. Hunting out of ground blinds, and it's just like anything. You have to learn the lessons, like you said earlier in the show. That every time you're in the stand in the woods, you're learning something, and I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, and I am guilty of bringing a pen and a piece of paper out just so I can write down times and say, okay, this deer came out at this point in the field at this time. So in that, I can go back later that night and look, and maybe after a season put all of my scribbling together and see, where the deer are coming out and when they're coming out and where they're moving. So you can kind of catch that staging time where they might be staging in in a good spot for you and a bad spot for them, if you will.
That's a good subject, and thanks for bringing it up. In every location where deer are working a food source, they do stage, and the younger deer, the does come out first, and then that buck, especially mature bucks, they're hanging back. In your estimation, how far off the field do they hang back before they saunter in right at quitting time?
It could be. I've seen them. From a distance, I've seen them about anywhere from 15 yards in the woods to 25. Just making sure that they're well hidden, and they might be, if it's rut, they might be chasing a doe back in the timber before they head out to the field. But I mean, that goes back to being patient. I mean, you've got to be patient, because the last little bit of light is always the best.
Yeah, I agree on that. I've shot more bucks at the end of the day than the beginning of the day, unless it's a rut. Then the rut's an all day sit, and it's a
Yep.
crapshoot. You could be in there 10 minutes, or you can be in there 8 hours and 52 minutes and 70, and 40 seconds,
Yep.
and there's Mister Wonderful. But it doesn't matter, does it, when he walks by?
Yep. Yep. That makes it worthwhile.
Hey, let's take a break, and why don't you tell people how to get a hold of Colby Smith? Colby Smith.
So if you need to get a hold of us, you can go to Alps Outdoors with a Z.com. click on the contact us link, and that'll give you the names to anyone that you'd like to talk to. You can also just call the office. The number to the office here is 573-459-2577. If you have any questions on any product, you can ask for me, and I'd be more than happy to help anyone out.
And thanks for that. And let's just segue right into ALPS Brands, and the piece that I understand that you handle is ALPS Outdoorz.
Yes. So ALPS Brands is the main name of the company. So in '93, Alps Mountaineering was started by our owner with, I believe, only a handful of SKUs. So we had tents and sleeping bags, and now we've got, oh man, I would hate to count all the SKUs that we have, but under Alps Brands, we have Alps Mountaineering, Alps Outdoorz. We're also a licensee for Delta Waterfowl, licensee for Browning Camping, and Cedar Ridge as well. So those fall under Alps Brands.
Now, when we look at Alps Outdoorz, I'm on the website right now. Extreme packs, NWTF gear, bags, RMF gear, furniture, gun case and duffels packs, and your own brand, Outdoorsy gear, and Delta Waterfowl. So, for whitetail hunters, what can they get from your store that they can't get at a big box?
So our product is definitely put to the test. You know, every time that we design something, it definitely takes us, you know, a year or two to design something, because we want to make sure that we design it, we test it, we see the failure, we redesign it, test it again, and then put it into production. So there are a lot of things that we design that don't make the cut, and it might take us 2 or 3 years to get it perfect. But doing it that way is better than just getting anything that's kind of thrown together or mass produced, because you know that the quality is going to be there.
Thanks for that. So I'm a whitetail hunter, and I haven't shopped your store before. Just kind of walk me through where should I start?
So, like on our website, you would go to the outdoors packs. So it would just be under the packs tab, but there is our outdoors line. So that's got a lot of smaller packs, more for the Midwest whitetail hunter. You know, we've got 5,000 cubic inch packs, and you know, we've got 1,000 cubic inch packs. We've got a wide variety of packs, but a lot of our packs are designed specifically for a whitetail hunter. So, you know, most of all of our packs have bow and rifle carriers, which I don't know about you, but going to my stand, I walk quite a ways just to kind of keep the noise traffic down. So I do on my way in and on my way out, I do have my bow or my rifle attached to my back. A lot of them have quiver holders. There's some packs that have removable pockets, so you can keep your grunt tube or your rattle bag right in front of you. So there's different features on a lot of these packs that that whitetail hunters could see a good use for.
Let's talk about the Willow Creek. Is that a hydration pack?
So the Willow Creek is a hydration pack. So this pack I actually use whenever I'm scouting. So if I'm scouting during the summer, you know, I'll throw this on just to have water, you know, a snack, and then, you know, maybe a knife or something like that with me. But you know, it's very, very lightweight pack. Basically just for scouting. I mean, there's really not a not a whole lot of space in that.
Now, so I'm looking at the site right now. So dark timber, is that one of your top sellers, or would you go with the Crossfire?
The Crossfire is one of my personal favorites, just because of the vented back. So this pack is really, really nice for early season, um, where I hunt. Like I said, I walk quite a ways. So the pack's going to be, it's a little bit smaller than what I'll say our Pursuit is, but this pack has a vented back in it, and then it's got a pocket on the back of the pack that can be removed and worn on either the front shoulder straps or completely separate and just kind of slung around your shoulder. So this pack holds the grunt tube, the rattle bag, and then like a rangefinder also. So I really like that one, and I actually use the Crossfire X, which is in the Extreme pack line.
And folks, I use a lot of packs, a lot of different setups, and the thing that I found really easy, it's better to put it in a pack that's going to stand the test of time, it's been field tested, than buy something that you think you're going to save money by buying it under $100. Your thoughts on that?
No, I definitely agree, and I've before I worked at Alps, I bought the cheap packs and wind up having to buy one every year just because they were cheap. And these packs have been tested, used and abused, and they will hold up.
And I appreciate, good gear. And I had some people on, and we were talking about, getting ready. I hunt elk out here, and the biggest thing is foot gear. Do you handle foot gear on your through Alps?
No, we're just basically packs, tents, sleeping bags, hunting blinds, things like that.
Okay. And thanks for that. And when you talk about foot gear, the next important thing, even before your rifle or your bow, is how you're going to carry the game out, because elk don't die on a field unless you're hunting private land and you can drive the truck right up or get the winch and you have a quarter mile of winch cable and you can winch them out of the woods. That doesn't happen, folks. For most of us.
Right.
I know some places that it does, and I'm happy you can hunt that way, but I can't. I can't afford it. Truth be known, I can't afford it. But so when you knock an elk down, it's really important, or even a big whitetail. And the more I talk to people about whitetail hunting, I'm surprised that they'll drag a 200-pound deer out of the woods rather than quartering him up and putting the whole deer on. You could literally, I think, get the whole deer on one of your extreme packs and carry that thing out in one load. It'd be easy for two people, no question about it. Your thoughts on that?
So I'm one of those that are guilty of dragging deer out. I am lucky enough to have our own land, so all I have to do is drag them out just a little ways, just so I can field dress them before I throw them on the back of the truck. But I've hunted out of state places that are walk-in only, and yeah, I would not drag a deer out of some of the places that I've been.
So why don't more people think about just quartering them? I mean, you can quarter a whitetail really fast. I mean, because you don't gut them at all. You just go right down the backbone and take the hide, peel the hide back. And if you're trying to keep them out, you just go in behind the shoulders and just, take it apart. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess people might think, since it's not as big as what an elk is, that that's not the norm for people to carry it out. But I was in a hunt in South Dakota last year, and I packed my whitetail out on actually one of our Traverse X's.
Did you get the whole thing in the pack, or did you take two trips?
Well, we had three guys there, so
Okay.
it was it was a light load for all of us. We all three took a little bit.
Yeah. And so, listeners, think about that. Because I can see a couple of instances where I should have done it. One was a farm. I had to go almost a half a mile because we couldn't get the tractor in because it was just pure slick, just mud, and we were going to tear up, the farm road. And the farmer just said, "You want them out? Drag them out." And it took a long time. And had I known what I know now, I would have just cut them up, made 2 trips, and I would have been done in a heck of a lot. um, Less exertion. I guess I'd say it that way. So, hey, think about that, listeners. And going back to Alps Brands, and you're the coordinator for Pro Staff. Let's talk about Pro Staff and what that means to you as a company. When people come and say, "Hey, I want to be on your Pro Staff," what do they really do for Alps Outdoors?
So what we ask for our pro staff is to really be more of a uh, like a brand advocate. We really want people to buy our stuff, and our pro staff does. They get a discount on some of the gear. It's not like we're paying them to write some reviews or anything like that, but we have them try it out, and that's that goes back to the whole testing process as well. We like having feedback. If we make something and it might be in the line for 2 or 3 years before someone tries and say, "Hey, this would be perfect if it was added onto this pack," or "This is not needed on this pack." There's things that we don't catch. I mean, just flat out, I'll say that. And, the pro staffers help us because unfortunately, I mean, we're in the office a lot, and when we do get to test it, we have to put it to the test pretty rugged for a week. And then, so I'll hunt for a week and I'll take a pack, and then the same guy will take that pack, or the next guy will take that same pack and then put it through the test for a week. And then that's kind of how we do our testing process. And then at the end of the season, we get together and then we go over our notes. So our pro staff, not only testing, but I mean, they give us more insight on how people hunt, and which might stir up other ideas on future product. But we also ask for, social media content. We have a bunch of people that take pictures for us, and, that just kind of, social media is a big thing anymore. So that's, a key role in their part as well.
So if you're going to give some advice to my listeners who said, "Man, I want to get on a pro staff," what's the best course of action that you would recommend?
Just be ready with your camera, because there's times that something will happen that you might not ever get on film again. And some of the people, like our best pro staffers, they send us a lot of pictures, and we might not use them all, but we know that they're trying. So it's just make sure you got a camera, and if there's something that you like on a pack, let us know.
Now, if I wanted to get on your pro staff, what steps do I need to do?
So we have a pro staff application on our website. So there's a pro staff and sponsorship tab. So anyone can fill the application out. Then it goes to me, and I read through it and get back to you.
Now, how many pro staff members do you have presently?
Right now we have around 100.
Wow, that's a lot,
yeah, and
isn't it?
I mean,
I shouldn't say that's a lot. Maybe it isn't.
Well, I mean, you gotta realize that our pro staffers are scattered out throughout. We've got pro staffers in all 50 states and in Canada. So some might think that's a lot, but that covers every terrain, if you will.
And you have the province. I just heard you have the provinces of Canada covered also. That's great. So, listeners, if you're interested, fill out the app, and Colby will get back to you. Is that pretty much it?
Yeah. I'm not saying that we're in need for pro staffers, but we always like to have them on hand. I might keep your application for a little bit, and then get back to you if we like what we see.
Say one big part of Alps Outdoors, Alps Brands is your dedication, commitment to the conservation entities across North America, and you can't be, you can't support them all, but you are supporting National Wild Turkey Federation, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, and Delta Waterfowl. So let's talk about your relationship with these conservation groups and how it helps grow your brand.
Yeah, so we have always been very close with the NWTF, and here the last year or two, we started designing some gear for them, which has been really fun. I'm a big turkey hunter as well, so that was I really like to hear that we were going to start designing some vests. So we've got two vests now and one pack. They're licensed with the NWTF. We've got a line of turkey chairs and one blind and a gun case. So every time someone buys one of the products off of our website, we give a certain percentage back to the NWTF. So that's really the same thing that we do for the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation and Delta Waterfowl as well.
Thanks for that. And, I started, well, I'm just trying to think the year with the Elk Foundation. It was way back. I went to a convention here in Denver, Colorado. I don't know how long ago that was. Met Dwight Chu, Larry D. Jones, and a lot of the other people, and stayed with them and stayed working with them for a long, long time. And I really enjoyed it. But as things change, I changed, my roles in corporate America changed, and so I'm still a life member. I'll obviously be a life member forever. But having said that, I really appreciate what companies like you do to help promote the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, because they've done a tremendous work in habitat and the work that they do to provide hunting places in the West. And people think, oh, there's millions of acres, which there are, but access can be a problem. And sometimes we gain access. The Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation gains access to places just because they work with land conservation issues. And so hats off to Alps Outdoors and Alps Brands for supporting the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, and my good friend Brenda Valentine over at National Wild Turkey Federation. So I really appreciate that.
So yeah, we're happy to be a part of all of those groups.
Hey, I got to give a shout out. I think Tyler Median, we already did that, but I really appreciate what he did to get us connected. And I'll just extend, a welcome to be a featured guest on the show to any of your pro staff. And, I'd love to have him on the show sprinkled throughout the year, because I like what you're doing. I love your graphics. I love your websites. And, from what Tyler's told me, you're great people to work with.
Well, that's good. Yeah, Tyler is he's really been fun to work with. He's going to be a great part of this team.
Yeah, and social media wise, he helps me. He's given me some good lessons learned. And folks, if you haven't listened to the show, check out, just Google Tyler Median, Timber Valley Outdoors, and he hunts suburban in Wisconsin. So I get a kick, and he's got a couple of bucks that I don't know anybody listening to the show wouldn't shoot. That's for darn sure. So saying that, we're at the time of the show that we're going to wrap. And so, Colby, why don't you take a few minutes and just give shout outs to, your president and anybody else you want to, and then we'll wrap the show.
Yeah. So, without Dennis Bruni, this company wouldn't be here, and I wouldn't have the great job that I do now. So definitely got to thank him. Also want to just give a shout out to the conservation groups that we work for. I think everyone ought to visit and read about some of these conservation groups, because there's a lot of things that these conservation groups do that people don't necessarily know about, that kind of go under the radar. But I would just put it in your hands to learn a little bit more about the conservation and what they do.
Well, on behalf of thousands of listeners across North America, thank you so much, Colby Smith, for being a guest on Whitetail Rendezvous.
Well, thank you. It was enjoyable.
Agreed. Break. So we're in the post show. Anything you want to add, or any links or anything that you want me to make sure I do in your post?
No, I think I've covered it. I covered Alps Outdoorz. If you want to throw a link into ALPS Brands, that'll have everything.
Okay.
That'll have all of our brands in it.
Yeah, and I've got that already. But sometimes people say, "Oh yeah, if you could do this, here's the URL, or go to it right now, capture it." I'd be more than happy. More than happy to do that.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I think that's it.
All right. And how best do you want me to just send an email inviting your pro staff on the show, or how would you like me to handle that?
Yeah, that would be fine.
Okay.
There's a few that I think you would enjoy talking to. So. Yeah,
because I always like great content, great folks on pro staffs from great companies, and everything I've seen about your company says that you're doing everything that you can to do it right. So I appreciate that.
Good. Well, we appreciate it.
All right, man. We're going to wrap the show, and thank you again. And I'll make sure to tell Tyler, thanks so much for connecting us.
Yep. All righty. Thanks, Bruce.
Have a good day, sir. On the next episode, Whitetail Rendezvous, we're heading out to the Dakotas, and we're going to meet with Reed Vanderveen. Now, Reed's been on the show before, and he's a pro staff for Rack's Big Game. More important than that, his family are one heck of a hunters, and every year they'll take 180 class deer. And so he's got some tips, techniques that you should listen up and take to heart, because his family, himself included, have some great success hunting mature whitetail bucks.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.